was listening to the song one day, One by U2, and I was very curious about the phrase, we get to carry each other. I kept thinking that was an obligation. And now with all of this work that I've done, I now realize it's a privilege. We get to carry each other. Even Bono, when he wrote about writing this song, said he got one day that when we reach down and help the other guy up, we change. We change. Something special inside us happens. That moment, we actually get off of it ourselves.
My book, The Field, which started me on this whole journey, was an attempt to see whether or not there are such a thing as human energy fields, because I wanted to know why things like spiritual healing work. Because I thought to myself, and there's some good evidence for spiritual healing, and I thought to myself, wow, if you can take a thought and send it to someone else and make them better, that in itself undermines everything we think about how the world works. So I thought it was going to be an easy job to just find out if there were human energy fields. That's not what I discovered. What I discovered when I started interviewing numerous scientists who were on the frontier of consciousness research was that they were also on the frontier of a new science. I was witness to a new science in the very act of its creation. What the book is about is a completely new story of how we work and how the world works. And it says that we are not separate, because if you look at the current worldview, which is a Newtonian worldview, a worldview created by Isaac Newton hundreds of years ago, it essentially describes separate beings and separate objects that are very well behaved and operate according to fixed laws in time and space. But the new evidence coming forward demonstrates that we are not individual and separate. We're part of a greater whole. We are part of a giant quantum energy field that I called the field. And that life is not about the individual thing. Life can only be understood in relationship. We are all part of a relationship, an exchange of energy. And that we're ephemeral things that are sending and receiving energy from the lowest level of our being at every moment.
Everybody knows that there's a field that connects all things. LIM is a big part of bringing that information forward. So that's how quickly it can change, by coming from the grassroots up. And what's happening, and what we're doing, I just want to tell you what you're doing right now, is when you accept as your everyday truth the facts of what is being shown here, science has to catch up with you. Your doctors have to catch up with you. When you stop going to your medical doctor because you know more about whatever's happening, as Joe said yesterday, than they do. And this is what is happening. Science is struggling to stay relevant in the mainstream, and they've got to catch up with the new, deep truths of our existence that we're bringing forward. So in a very real sense, it is happening from the grassroots up, from the top down.
I think science and research really suffers from incredible agendas, and the agenda right now is essentially to confirm what's already been discovered. But what we have to understand is that science isn't a finite truth. You know, it isn't a situation where one chapter is written and that story exists for all time. Science is just a story, and every so often a new chapter comes along that rewrites everything that's come before. And so the agenda, the prevailing agenda that goes on in scientific circles and universities, etc., is to confirm the prevailing view. But that isn't real science. Real science is all about exploring and allowing yourself to go with wherever your experimental evidence leads, even if that leads you to a place you didn't want to go to.